Hi, I'm Adrian Abrams. I'm the Chief Product Owner for the Quality Payment Program at CMS. You can find complete information on our website, qpp.cms.gov. In this video, we'll demonstrate the product features that are available to users of registries and Qualified Clinical Data Registries, or QCDRs. Specifically, we'll review the ways in which registries and QCDRs can submit data for individual clinicians and/or groups. We'll show how a user of a registry and QCDR can log in to qpp.cms.gov to review the complete set of data submitted via their organization. We'll also show how qpp.cms.gov provides registry users with a projection or sample of the score that may be received by their customers based on the data that the registry or QCDR, has submitted. It's important that we discuss the security model for registries and QCDRs. It's different because these organizations are empowered to submit data to the Merit-Based Incentive Program, MIPS, for any individual clinician and/or group without having to be authorized by that individual clinician or group. This is possible due to their formal registration process at CMS. This has the main benefit of eliminating an extra step for clinicians and/or groups who are looking to use a registry or QCDR to report on their behalf. So there are two methods that users of registries and QCDRs can use to submit data to the Merit-Based Incentive Program. The first, which is similar to previous years, is using a file upload. And second is to participate in our Submissions API pilot. This is available solely to registries and QCDRs in the first year of the Quality Payment Program. We'll be interested in evaluating the possibility to expand this in future years of the program based on the pilot. The Submissions API provides a few key features that we believe our partners will benefit from. It will eliminate the need to perform manual file uploads. That'll be specifically important if a customer base is large, and so that represents a large amount of effort. It enables the submitters to maintain more granular control of their submission. So the Submissions API makes it easy for data, once it's submitted, to be updated or revised. We also project that it could reduce the costs of updating processes to supporting the Merit-Based Incentive Program year over year. More information about the Submissions API, the Measures API, and specifically this pilot are available on our website, qpp.cms.gov. If you go to the upper menu and click on the About menu option, you'll see a listing for a resource library appear. If you select that, on our resource library page, scrolling down will give you the option to find the developer tools in the APIs, and you can click to learn more about the developer tools. The developer tools page provides access to in-depth information on a few key API topics. Access to information on our developer preview for the QPP Submissions API, where you can obtain a token and be credentialed to participate, the specific API documentation for the Submissions API, information on the QPP Measures Data Repository, and where you can view that repository, how to access help via joining our Google group, contacting the Service Center, reviewing the introduction to the developer's tools, or the guide to the QPP submissions methods. So the Submission API is one of the methods that registries and QCDR users can use to submit data on behalf of clinicians or groups. I'm going to take you to our demo environment. It's an exact replica of the site and functionality. It just allows us to use fake data so that we're not compromising any sensitive data, but I can show you the full experience that a registry user will have once they log in. When the submission period begins, you'll have a sign-in option appear on the right-hand side of this menu in the banner of qpp.cms.gov. If you select the option to log in, you'll notice that it's asking you for your Enterprise Identity Management credentials. That's more commonly known as your EIDM credentials. So it's asking you to enter your EIDM user ID and password. If you've previously created an EIDM user ID and you have a role with a registry in one of the existing quality programs for a registry, most likely the Physician Quality Reporting System, we will have automatically imported your user, your password, and your existing role with the registry. As long as your password is current and not expired, when the submission period starts in January, you'll be able to visit qpp.cms.gov and log in without any additional steps. If you haven't created an EIDM user ID, or if you haven't requested and been approved for a role for this demo, specifically with a registry, visit the CMS Enterprise portal to execute that as well. Also, we've created a QPP EIDM user guide. We'll put the link down in the description of this video on YouTube, as well as you can visit the About section and review our resources in the resource library and find a link to the guide there. For this demo, we've created a mock account. I will be a security official with a registry. Review the statement of truth, certifying that to the best of your knowledge, all the information you're submitting is true, accurate, and complete. Confirm you agree to proceed. Signing in. This account has been configured to use multi-factor authentication, and I'm using my phone as my second factor of authentication. You'll hear that phone call now.
Hello. Thank you for using our phone verification system. Your code is 13546. Once again, your code is 1.
Submit that code. The first time I landed on that screen, there was a one-step process to inform the system of what device I was going to use as a second factor of authentication. That's the only thing I did the previous time I logged in. So now I've landed on the submission summary screen. You'll notice the full instructions are available for you to review here, and clicking on the link will pop up a dialog box with specific details around each category of the MIPS submission. You'll notice a file upload button that, when clicked, brings up a modal. This modal prompts me to upload files in QPP format. This will be the typical format used by QCDRs and registries, or QRDA3 format. These are the formats normally exported by EHRs and often used by groups and practices. There's drag and drop functionality here, or I can browse for an XML or JSON file on my local machine, and then I can upload that file. You'll notice in the bottom here that there are existing submissions. I have 2 submissions currently. They're laid out in these horizontal ribbons, and as you roll over them, they move from gray to a white color. So you'll notice that you are over the first, which is a TIN, but there is no NPI. This represents a group submission. If there was an NPI number here, it would represent a submission for an individual clinician within a group. The second one, is also a group submission because there's only a TIN. And you see the timestamps of what they were submitted. Just a quick note on the timestamps. The timestamps represent the first time a submission during this submission period was created for either this TIN or TIN NPI combination. So if I were to delete this and then re-upload a MIPS submission for this TIN, this timestamp would remain the same because this was the first time during this time period that a submission was created for this specific TIN. I have the ability to expand all. We'll review that in a second. Search for one of a specific TIN or TIN and NPI combination. This is going to be particularly practical if you are a large QCDR registry and have dozens or hundreds of submissions and want to isolate one specifically. This page is just going to continue to expand down horizontally. And so the search feature may be useful there. Also, you can extract the information to a CSV file format if that would be more useful and you'd like the ability to, for example, review these results offline. And you have the ability to delete one or all of the submissions. And let me show you how that works. I'm going to select one submission to delete. When I select that option, you'll see the button has turned into a delete selected options, and there are 0. A new checkbox has appeared to the left of each entry. I can check them, and as I do, the number in this delete box increases. So I've checked them both. I'm going to hit delete. I'm prompted to confirm that I'm not making a mistake. I've deleted both submissions now. So let's use now the file upload feature. We can drag or drop again a file, or we can browse. I'm going to browse my local machine. I have a file containing QCDRs in the QPP format in JSON. I'm going to load this file. And let me actually find a second file here just for an example. I'm also going to pick one of the QRDA3 files that I have exported from an EHR. This is from a different tin. You'll see now that I have 2 files that are here. They're both in a pending upload status. So the system is aware of them but has not tried to validate them. And if valid, has not created a submission on qpp.cms.gov for these tins. I can upload each file individually. I can remove each file individually. Or I can upload them all at the same time. I'm going to do that. And you're going to see that we're going to validate the file format and we're going to confirm that the metric construction is proper. If both of those facts are true, then we are going to create a submission, in this case 2 different submissions because they're for different tins. And again, that's a specific characteristic of the registry and QCDR security model. And when I close this modal by hitting the close button here, I'm going to see the 2 submissions created here. You'll notice that the timestamps are the same as they were earlier because of the feature we talked about. So let's explore these submissions. I can do that by hitting the expand arrow to the left of each of the tin or tin NPI ribbons, or I can do that for all of them. If I hit all of them, you'll see everything expand. That's a bit much. So let's review one at a time. I'm going to hit the drop down arrow next to the tin NPI. This shows me the categories that were contained within the file that was submitted. This is the result of that QCDR file in QPP format that we submitted as a JSON file. It had only quality data within it. It had the registry format. There were 9 total measures submitted. And the score is projected to be 100 over 100. I'll just take a moment and say that scoring is highlighted as a projection because we are using only the data that you submit to calculate scoring. For example, in quality data, let me show you how we arrive at this projected category score. You can dig deeper into the results of the 9 measures submitted by again using the drop-down arrow to the left, this time of the quality category. This will show the 9 measures that we registered as part of this submission. Their names are listed first, then the measure IDs, the performance score, which is calculated by taking the numerator and denominator for a specific measure and comparing it to the benchmark or the submitted performance rate, and then calculating a contribution to category score. This represents the translation of the performance score, so the data submitted against the benchmark turned into, for example, for a standard quality measure, points derived from the decile, adding to that the bonus points that the measure or the submission method is eligible for. So, as an example here, you see that this measure is projected to contribute 10 total points to the overall quality category score, and that will take into account both the specific performance of this measure and the bonus points that apply to this measure. Additionally, if more than 6 measures are submitted in the quality category, we'll score every measure received You'll notice that in the performance scoring category here, in the contribution to category score column, we'll actually show you the projections of which measures we evaluated to be the highest scoring 6 measures or eligible for additional bonus points that would contribute to the category score for quality. So in this case, you see 6 measures scored, 3 are demonstrating 0 points contributing to the final score because they are being projected to be outside of the top 6 measures. And we do this for every measure submitted. In my second example, we'll have a better example of that. Let me go now down to the second group submission, hit the expand arrow, and you'll notice now that we have 3 ribbons here in this submission, representing that all 3 components of the MIPS submission were part of the QRDA3 file that we uploaded: quality, advancing care information, and the improvement activities. The submission method is going to be the same for all 3 because it was received via one file. And then you'll notice that we have demonstrated the number of measures submitted as well as the projected score in each category. So here we have 44 measures submitted in the quality category. Let's expand that section and you'll see the same holds true here. We have our measure names, our measure IDs, and our performance scores for each measure, as well as the contribution to the category score for each measure. And with an example of 40 measures, you'll notice the majority of these measures are going to demonstrate zeros as contribution to category score because we know that the scoring for quality consists of the top 6 measures as well as a series of permissible additional bonus points. So you'll see measures scored here, 11, 11, and 10 definitely represent measures that are part of the top 6. And these additional measures that had high performance scores, but only 1 point contributing to the category score, are representing that this measure has earned a bonus point and that that bonus point is going to be counted on top of the 6 measures that scored highest. Closing the quality category, let's review advancing care information. There were 3 measures submitted. You can see here their values: the e-prescribing, providing patient access, and the security risk analysis. You see the first 2 were numerator-denominator measures, and the third a yes-no attestation measure. However, there is still a 0 over 100, and this is because of the rules of the advancing care information category. It is required that the mandatory attestations be completed, as well as the measures required for a base score to begin receiving credit for submitting data in the advancing care information category, and we see that neither of those 2 requirements have been met. We don't see the mandatory attestations in this data set, nor all of the measures required for a minimal base score. And so this is the reason that we're projecting that this would receive a 0 out of 100 potential points at this time. Moving on to the improvement activities, we see 2 measures submitted. Here are the names of those measures, the measure IDs. They're both attestations of yes, which is the only option in the IA category. And then the weight, which represents the total number of points that attesting yes to this activity contributed to the final category score of 30 over 40. Medium account for 10 points, and highly weighted activities account for 20. And so we're projecting again that this would be 30 out of 40 points. So this design will repeat for each submission, whether that submission is made for a group like these are at the TIN level or TIN and NPI. It's going to continue to look the same no matter how many are submitted. This dashboard just expands down vertically. The goal here is to provide registries, whether submitting via the submission API or uploading files manually, the ability to see the result of all submissions made by any user on behalf of your registry for any of your customers in one location. So a one-stop shop to review that information and giving you the richest view of that data to obtain feedback on the submissions that you've created. At the end of the submissions experience, You'll log out. And when you do, you'll be reminded that the submission window for the 2017 performance window will close at the end of March. The way in which this product is designed, you can come back in and update this data as many times as you'd like for a specific TIN and/or TIN and NPI prior to the close of the submission window. One last note, we are only in this view demonstrating the data that registries have submitted on behalf of their customers. It is feasible and permissible that your group and/or individual clinicians will have submitted data on their own. Remember that scoring in MIPS works so that the group practice or clinician is benefited with the highest score within one category by submission method. So if in any category, either quality, advancing care, or improvement activities, they have submitted data, for example, via the EHR submission mechanism, they have uploaded their own QRDA3 file. If that data scores higher than the data submitted by the registry in that category for that group or individual clinician, they will be benefited with the highest of those two scores. This means that there could be scenarios where the projected score that we represent here to a registry is actually trumped by another component of a submission which we'll add in at the time of final scoring. We'll sign out here. Thanks very much for reviewing this video. We've got a series of other videos that we've posted demoing the other user experiences available for groups and individual clinicians who are submitting to MIPS using the qpp.cms.gov tools, as well as groups and/or alternative payment models who are registered to submit data using the web interface for beneficiary level quality data reporting. Also, visit our website, qpp.cms.gov, for the latest information.